So welcome, my dear students. Welcome back, everyone. Another video and another lecture in the risk mitigation and risk. And here we have to know some points about the risk, like we'll talk about the risk mitigation today. Mitigation means reducing the risk. How to reduce the risk? This is the meaning of the word mitigation. It means how that you can reduce the risk. There's an example here. An example can be seen in the operation of a security-conscious jewelry shop. Customers are allowed into the shop one at a time. So they enter the shop one by one. They will be recorded on the CCTV, on the cameras, as they wait to enter. Items are held securely, and customers are invited to ask to see specific items under the suspicious gaze of the shop assistants. Of course, some customers are put off, but equally, the shop suffers negligible rates of shoplifting. So this is a jewelry shop, and they have suffered from some people have stolen their own stuff before, the jewels from there, and they put a system, CCTV or the camera system, to prohibit the trials to steal or shoplift from the shop. Shoplift means stealing. Okay, contrast this with a supermarket where there is no barriers to entry and customers are allowed to handle all of the items. So he's comparing between the jewelry shop and of the jeweler shop and the other like a convenience shop or supermarket. In the supermarket, you can entrance in this supermarket. You cannot be controlled. You can come inside. You can touch all the products which you want. There is CCTV is monitoring the shop, and there are likely to be store detective patrolling. But the object of the security is to deter rather than to prevent shoplifting. So the security is just there to check out and prevent the shoplifting, but it's to find out if something was shoplifted or no. This is a job more than he prevent. Shoplifting does occur, but the rates that acceptable to the shop owners. Yeah. But at rates that are accepted, it's okay. It will happen. Shoplifting will happen. So shoplifting will happen also in this shop. Conversely, few potential customers are put off visiting the shop because of the measures. These are some points about the risk mitigation. So how I can reduce risk? As example, by putting cameras. So the risk of theft or shoplifting or losing part of your goods, that you can mitigate it, reduce this risk with putting cameras. So the risk mitigation goes to how I will deal with the risk. How I will deal with the risk. How can I reduce the risk? Categories of the operational disruption after this. The category, the people, as example, lack of people. So the examples of disruption, like what? Lack of people skills and or resources. So when they don't have skills, that will lead to more risk. Inappropriate behavior by a senior manager. Unexpected absence of key persons, some very important persons in the work, they are absent, they are not there. Those are all examples for the disruption because of the people. A health accident or injury to the people that will stop them from working or reduce their productivity at work. So the first category of potential disruption is the people. And these are examples of the disruption, like we said, accidents, absence of very important person. Things will increase the risk. Second thing is the premises or the buildings or the lands or whatever. Inadequate, so examples of the disruption like inadequate, insufficient, or denial of access to premises. I cannot get into the premises. Damage to or contamination of the premises. Damage to and breakdown of physical assets. Theft or loss or physical assets. All these are examples for disruption for the premises. So we have 4 P's here: people, premises, process, and products. The third type of operational disruptions are the process. The process is what is one of the parts of the job to execute or to get the job done. Failure of IT hardware or software systems, disruptions by hackers or computer virus, inadequate management of information, failure of communication or transportation system. So those also regarding the process. The last one is the products. The last one is the products. Poor product or service quality, disruption caused by failure of supplier, delivery of the defective goods or components, and failure of outsourced services and facilities. So these are the examples of the disruption. And the disruption is done for 4 categories that start with the letter P: people, premises, process, and products. Of course, these problems or these disruptions or these hazards will lead to the risk, and the risk will lead to loss. So that is the point. So now is our first question today. State, Control and C. Here we go. State the, and here we go, categories of operational disruptions. State the categories of the operational disruptions. And here is our first question today. And we will put here for the answer, guys. Here we go. This is the first question. Now, and I'll stop here like around 5 minutes to get your answers, my dears. I'll stop here almost like around 5 minutes to get your answers. So that was the question here, and we will move now forward into the next one. Scope of risk management. And this is another uh, uh, part, scope of the risk management. And what do we mean by the scope of the risk management? Risk management is not about controlling or mitigating risk out of existence. But it's not only the point that risk management is dealing only with the risk. But if business is to perform, management must learn to make more risk and to accept failure, to perform better than the rest. So it's not only a one trial to reduce the risk and that's it. You must take greater risk, but it should be calculated risk. The risk is accepted is known as the likelihood and the impact. So the likelihood means the frequency and the impact means the effect. So you must know the size of the risk, the amount of the risk, and you will act accordingly. You will plan accordingly, but you have to accept risk. You have to, particularly in business, if you didn't go for a risky project, don't expect a good reward. This is the point. It is not acceptable to take risk unwittingly. The past practice of silo-based approaches for managing pockets of risks leads to unclear responsibilities and the lack of visibility, thereby exposing the organization to unnecessary risk. So always measure the risk before you go to the risk. Now, the risk management. What are the definitions of the risk management? What are the definitions of the risk management? The first definition here is done by the ISO 73, coordinated activity to direct and control an organization with regard to risk. It didn't say to prevent the risk. It didn't say to prevent the risk, but it is to control the risk. So here, definition of risk management, coordinated activities to direct and control an organization with regard to risk. The Institute of Risk Management is defining the risk by the process which aims to help organizations understand, evaluate, and take actions on all their risks with a view or as the view of to increasing the probability of success and reducing the likelihood to failure. The likelihood here means the probability to failure. The third definition for risk management is all the process involved in identifying, assessing, and judging risk, assigning ownerships, taking actions to mitigate or anticipate them. Look at this, mitigate to reduce the risk or anticipate, expect the risk, and monitoring and reviewing progress, monitoring the risk, how it's increasing or decreasing, and reviewing also the plans based on the type of risk. We'll move from plan A to plan B and so on. London School of Economics also has a definition for the risk, which means selection of those risks a business should take and those which should be avoided or mitigated, followed by actions to avoid or reduce risk. In the four definitions, we didn't say to totally avoid the risk, but you can handle also the risk or accept it Accept it if you are looking for a risky project, but you are expecting that you'll have a high ROI, return on investment. So that means I want to say that in all the cases you don't refuse or reject the risk 100%. You have to accept it, and you have to deal with it, and you have to mitigate it, reduce it, and you have also to anticipate the risk. So anticipate, mitigate, accept, all these comes here on the definitions of the risk management. That will lead me right now to this question, discuss the risk management. Define risk management. Very easy question. You don't need to write the 4 definitions. One definition is more than enough. Define risk management. This is our question right now, and we will stop here like around 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes to get the answer of these questions. Define risk management. Like I showed you, here is the answer. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 definitions. You can accept the risk, mitigate the risk, avoid the risk. Yeah. So I'll keep here standing for around 5 minutes at this point till you guys get the answer of these questions. Okay. Why managing risk is important? Why do we have to manage the risk? Why do we have to manage the risk? Why managing risk is important? Managing risk is important because of the managing the organization variable cost or viability of raw materials cost of retirement, pension, and so on. Benefit desire to deliver greater shareholders' values, greater transparency required from organizations. Pace to change business ever increase. Impact of the e-commerce of all the aspects of business life increased. Reliance of information on the technology also. Increasing importance of intellectual properties. All these are reasons why do we have to care about to manage the risk. Why do we have to manage this? All these are reasons. Okay, also increasing importance of intellectual property, greater supply chain complexity and dependency, because supply chain systems now are very they are very interdependent and very complicated systems. So it's very complex systems too. That's why we have to, because there is risk falling on them. So we have also to manage the risk which fall on them. Reputational damages, high profile losses, your regulatory pressure continue to increase changes or variations in national legislative's requirements. All these are reasons why we have to study the risk, why we have to manage the risk, starting from the variable costs of the organization and to give a value, a greater value to the shareholders. Like as example here, I will put red, greater shareholders value. I will put in red. Pace of a change in business, the change in business systems. The impact of the e-commerce also affect and make it very important. We have also increasing importance of intellectual property. This important. Supply chain complexity is another reason why managing risk is important. Also, we have reputation becomes more and more important. The reputation of so you care about the reputation, your shop, your goodwill. Reputational damages, high profile losses and failure, ruin reputation. So also regarding the reputation means the name you did goodwill. Regulatory pleasures like to increase changes, like those who are asking for the environment, the green parties, and who is looking for the environment, safe environment, those also increasingly they have their own opinions and objections, and this also increases the risk. So what is in red is why do we manage the risk? Why we manage the risk? The answer is those in red. For the variable cost of a company, to control the costs, by other meaning, greater shareholders, change in business, impact of e-commerce, increasing importance of intellectual property, supply chain complexity, and reputations, also under regulatory pressure countries. That's why we care about the risk. That's why we care about the risks. Also, we care about the risk because of changing in the marketing place, changing commercial and marketplace environment. The globalization also make us care about the risk. Increase competition also in the marketplace because marketing now, the competitions increase more and more. Greater customer expectations here need to respond more rapidly to the expectation of the shareholders. So the shareholders' expectations. Diversification lead to working in an unfamiliar area. The diversification, like in Canada here, find all the people from different countries are working here together. Short-term success is another point. Product innovation is another point. And rapid changes in consumer product technology. So the rapid change in technology, the technology or the levels of the technology also is the reason why we care about risk management, treats the world and the national economy. So this is also the world and the national economy. This is another point. So those two slides are the reasons why is managing risk important. And now, my dears, all I will do is just take this question as well, and I will put it in here as a question of today, why managing risk is important. And here we will take this part and put it for you to put your answer. And here now the question is why managing risk is important. Shall stay here around 5 minutes before we move into the next video. Why managing risk is of important, why it is important. That's why we will see, or what we will work on. Okay, guys. So why managing risk is important? Why managing risk is important? Because of those reasons which we said in the red, because of the variable cost, because of the greater shareholders' values, because of change in the business, because of the impact of the e-commerce, because of the increasing importance of intellectual properties, because of the supply chain complexities, because of the reputation, because of the regulatory pressures continuous, and because of the globalization, and because of the increased competition, and because of the greater customer expectation, and because of the changed stakeholders' expectations, because of the diversification which the whole world is living in now, like Canada here, very diversified country, because of the short-term success, because we need to achieve it, we need to achieve it, because of the product innovation and the increasing changing in the product or improving the products, and the introducing the markets new products development or product development, because also of the technology and because of the trees of the national economy and the whole world nowadays, like what's happening right now in these days, when the prices of the oil is gone high, it's gone higher because of the war of Russia and Ukraine. Shall see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Thank you.